Let me bring in our hypnotist, Marshall Silver.
It's Marshall Silver, ladies and gentlemen, the world's fastest hypnotist.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. It is a glorious day filled with love, health, opportunity, and potential. So glad you're with me today. Hey, you know what? Like I have said on previous broadcasts, we're in a testing mode right now. That doesn't mean that I'm not giving away cash, though. I'm giving away cash. Hundreds of dollars every single day. All you got to do is call in to get the money. 877-SILVER1. That's the number. Call in. Every single person that calls in gets $100 cash. It really is that simple. Somebody asked me yesterday, they said, it's insane. How in the world can you give every single person who calls into your show $100? Well, we can only put about 4 or 5 people on a day. And we put the people on, frankly, that are most interesting. So if you're interesting and you're asking a question about sex, money, power, politics, doesn't matter. If you get on the air, I'm going to give you cash. I'm also going to give you the person that told you about the show cash. So everybody wins. That's all you got to do. People ask me, how in the world can you do that? There is a word, and when you come to Turning Point, I'll talk about it a lot because it's the basis of our lives, not just in finance, in every area of our lives. And it's the word is velocity. It's as it pertains to your finances, it's the speed and frequency in which your money changes hands. Yes, I'll say that again. Velocity, as it pertains to your finances, is the speed and frequency in which your money changes hands. It's biblical. As you sow, so shall you reap. What you plant grows. And what most people don't realize is we get back what we send out. Most people send out crap. Most people send out energy and export that they don't want back. They piss people off, they anger the world, and then they wonder why the world doesn't respond well to them. I don't have any challenge with people that have tattoos. I happen to like artwork, and I think people that put tattoos on themselves are expressing themselves for sure and expressing their art. I don't have a challenge with that. I don't have a challenge with piercings. When I was 21 years old, I pierced my ear, and again, I get it. You can do whatever you want to do. But if you have a rainbow-colored mohawk and the majority of your body is covered in tattoos and you got piercings up and down your ears and a nose ring and a hole in your cheek and then complain about not being able to get a job, there's no right or wrong. You can live your life however you want to live your life, but there are consequences. And the consequence of you not getting what you want is based upon you putting things out into the world that preclude you from doing so. That's it. Whole lot going on right now in the world, a lot of controversy happening. On today's show, we're going to talk about relationships in a little bit. I want to talk about popular topics for a little bit before we dive into the show. The challenges going on right now are a direct example of exactly what I'm talking about, that as you sow, so shall you reap. You know, there's a bunch of controversy going on about what's going on with ICE. We all watch it every day. How can we not? Every other post on social media is either pro or against ICE. And all I can say is ICE has been around since Clinton. And since it's been around since Clinton, through Obama, through Biden, never had a challenge or the outrage that we're having now. And I get it. People will say, oh, they treated people differently then. They didn't, actually. It's the exact same people. Tom Homan, who ran ICE for Barack Obama and won a Presidential Medal of Honor from Barack Obama for the way that he ran ICE, is running ICE now. So it's not being run any differently. But the second thing I want to point out to you is not only is it not running any differently, it's running without challenge everywhere except for massively blue, and not just blue states, massively blue fraud-ridden states. Did you notice that all these uprisings occurred after Nick Shirley went down to Minneapolis and started exposing all the Leering centers and the massive amount of billions and billions and billions of dollars of Somali fraud? It's not just fraud. It's very specific to a community. Now, one of the things that you should understand about the Somali community is they don't operate the same way you and I do. During today's show, I'm going to talk a lot about the distinctions of how men and women think. But I want you to understand that cultures also have different ideals. They have different values. They have different beliefs of what is and is not acceptable behaviors. So one of the challenges inside the Somali community is they don't think there's anything wrong with fraud. They don't. If your neighbor says, yeah, I just stole $2 million from the government, your response, if you're in the Somali community right now, this isn't racist, it's a fact. If you're in the Somali community and your neighbor says they stole $2 million from the government, you're probably going to say, amateur, you could have done better. And that's what's going on. That's why Somalia is a hellhole. It is a garbage heap, just like President Trump said it is. Anybody that can prove otherwise then. It's a garbage heap. You got nonstop corruption in the government. You got nonstop corruption in the community. Everybody's seeing if they can steal as much as they possibly can, and nobody has any challenge with it. I had a woman that came through one of my seminars years ago who owned 4 casinos in downtown Las Vegas, and I was hypnotizing somebody to overcome their addiction to gambling. And I did the hypnotic session. I rewired their brain. I got them off their addiction to gambling. And at the end of it all, we were talking about gambling and addiction in general, but gambling addiction specifically. And I said to the woman that owned the casinos, I said, you know, if you go to a casino and you go to the cage, there's a little sign by the cage where you cash in your chips that say, hey, if you think you might have a gambling addiction, call this number. Well, first and foremost, it's too late if you're at the cage, and nobody with a gambling addiction is going to see the sign at the cage because they never visit the cage because they never have any money. But there's a sign there anyways that says, if you have a gambling addiction, call this 1-800-GAMBLERS Anonymous hotline. I said, you don't want gambling addicts in your casino. You know what she said? She said, of course I do. If they're going to give their money away somewhere, I'd like them to give their money away to me. There's people that are criminals that believe if you're dumb enough to be robbed, you deserve to be robbed. I don't subscribe to that. I don't necessarily believe that. But here's the other challenge. And this is where everything comes together. Honest people think everyone is honest. People that have ethics and morality, they operate from a frame that other people don't operate from. So what's going on right now in Minnesota with the Somali community that was illegally imported? That's why they're deporting these people. They were illegally imported into Minneapolis for one reason and one reason only. Not because Joe Biden cared about the people of Somalia, not because he wanted to give those folks a better life. It's because he knew they needed Minnesota as a part of the Electoral College so that they could reelect more presidents. And the more people that they can put in place that would vote for them specifically, the better off they're going to be. Well, think about this for a second. If you're brought in illegally, if you're planted as a citizen and you're not really a citizen, but you're planted as a voter in a given area, and then you're fed not just a couple of bucks, not just free cell phones, not just discounted housing, but you're given billions, that's with a B, billions of dollars that nobody is going to look at, that everybody is turning a blind eye from, my gosh, yeah, of course you're going to stay. If you're allowed to put hundreds of millions of dollars in suitcases and ship those suitcases to your friends back home in your hellhole of a third world country, everybody's going to come. And by God, every single one of those people is absolutely going to vote for the people that are covering for not only their fraud, but guarantee you covering for the fraud of the people covering. Because there ain't no politician, no Walz, no Fry, no Ellison, none of the people that are governing back in Minnesota right now are clean. They're all dirty. And they're all dirty, not just in the sense that they're allowing the fraud. Nobody allows fraud without saying, where's my cut? That's when the riots started in Minneapolis. They didn't start when ICE went in. They started when the fraud became exposed. The ICE riots going on in L.A. now, they didn't start till Nick Shirley and other people, Elon Musk, started saying the fraud in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, is minimal compared to the fraud in California, which is absolutely certain. They are uncovering assisted living centers. They're finding out that L.A. County has, I forget what it is, 30% of all of the assisted living centers in the United States are in L.A. County. 30%. You figure it out. So what's going on right now is things are being exposed, and if you are a part of the party that thrives and lives on the idea of illegal people being your base, of course, you don't want anybody disrupting that process. CNN, of all places, just did a poll, and the CNN poll polled people and said, who wants voter ID? Who wants voter ID? Because this all hinges on the idea that illegals can vote in elections. If I import 100,000 Somalians into my state so that they'll vote for me and I allow them to run rampant on fraud and I give them all sorts of other benefits, then yes, they're going to vote for me. But if those people need to have an ID, guess what? They can't vote for me. They're not going to be allowed at the polls. And so what has to happen is not only do we need voter ID to identify who shouldn't be here, but the other reason, and it just was exposed, is being exposed. They're saying it out loud now. They're not even shy about it. Democrats are now saying that if the census doesn't allow for illegal aliens, Republicans will win a massive amount of seats in the Senate. The redistricting will allow for more Republican seats than Democrats. They'll lose seats. The Republicans will gain seats. Yeah, because the people that you're supposed to be representing are people that are supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be representing criminals. They're not allowed to be counted. They're not supposed to be here. Should you count them as human beings? Of course, they're human beings here, but they shouldn't be counted in the process of redistricting for choices for American citizens. American citizens should choose who and what happens in their household. So that said, the changes going on. Obviously, a large group of white people are all for voter ID. That doesn't come with a surprise. 88% of white people believe voter ID is a good idea. 12% are moron libtards that just need to support their party because that's what they do. They have no real reason, no real motivation. They say, oh no, voter ID is racist. Okay, so here's the deal. 78% of Hispanics believe in voter ID. 74% of blacks believe in voter ID. So it's not racist. It's just against your party. It's not racist at all. People, even illegals, in order to drive, need to get a driver's license. In order to buy liquor, they at least have to have a fake ID to buy liquor. So IDs aren't racist. It's ridiculous. It's insane. But the lies that you get told by parties that have no stance and no position, they're endless. So we find ourselves in a place where insanity rules and truth is not really apparent. But what I want you to remember is scripturally, the truth shall set us free. And as painful as the truth is, it sets us free. On today's show, I'm going to talk about relationships. And I want to start in this conversation about relationships right now and tell you that in the area of relationships, one of the first things we've got to accept is exactly what I'm talking about politically, is that people are different. We have different viewpoints. We have different positions. So as I start talking about his needs and her needs, I want you to also realize that in your life, if your relationships are sound, if you're healthy, if you're having fun, if there's little or no drama or controversy going on, then your life is going to be better, of course. So how do we get to that place of no drama? For the record, I have been married 3 times. I was married twice before I met my one true wife, Erica Silver. My first wife, I was 21 years old. We were young and dumb. She's an excellent human being. We got married, realized that we weren't really suited for each other. We were good friends, so we got divorced. 6 months later, she moved back in with me to live with me because we were really good friends. We just weren't suited. She was looking for a 9-to-5 guy, and I'm anything except that. My second wife was a model and an actress, and I thought was completely appropriate for my lifestyle as an entertainer, as a public figure. I thought we were well suited. We could be, that power couple together. The challenge was nonstop drama. My ex-wife while we were dating, we'd get together, we'd break up for 2 weeks, we'd get together for 2 months, we'd break up for 2 weeks, and that went on for 9 years before we got married. The challenge was that I just thought that a good relationship has passion. And I think a lot of people think that if you don't fight once in a while, there's just no passion in your relationship. Well, that's like saying, if you don't get sick once in a while, you won't know the quality of your health. Just ridiculous. But that's what I believed. I believed that we needed passion. The sex was good. You know, when it was good, we had fun, and it was awesome, and she was pretty, and I liked showing her off. The challenge was, though, a healthy relationship doesn't break up every 2 months. The bigger challenge for me is I kind of liked the routine. I'd have a girlfriend for 2 months. She'd break up with me for 2 weeks. I'd go date whoever I wanted to date. 2 weeks later, she'd come back. We'd get back together. 2 months. I liked the routine. It worked for my lifestyle until I got married. And because I have a different idea of what marriage is supposed to be, when we got married and she asked for an annulment on the honeymoon, I said, you got it. On the spot, done. She apologized the next day. We stayed married 2 months, and just like the previous pattern, she left and hid till I filed for divorce. Then she came back. We're together for a few months. She throws another fit, goes and hides again. Exhausting. She had borderline personality disorder. That was the challenge. The 2 books written on the topic were I Love You, Don't Leave Me, I Hate You, Don't Go Away, Push Me, Pull You. So when I went through my second divorce, I decided maybe marriage isn't for me. Maybe I'm just not the marrying type. And so I dated a lot of women, and I had a lot of fun, and I felt very, very empty, very, very shallow, very alone. And so one of the things that has to happen is we've got to figure out, who are we? You know, I have a lot of friends that are single, and they love their life. They're okay with it. I have a brother that I assume will never, ever be married. He's my older brother. And he's fine. He enjoys it. He likes not being responsible to other people. And I get it. Everybody's got their choices. I never liked that. I like the idea of having a partner. I like the idea of not stressing out. I like the idea of getting laid on a regular basis and not worrying about disease and all the complications that has. And so for me, I knew that wasn't what I wanted. I also had a framework, a belief of what relationships were. And one of the thoughts that came to mind is if you're happy more than 50% of the time, you're among the lucky few. Why? Because that's what I watched everybody around me have. They had relationships where they were happy for the most part, and then, you know, only not happy once in a while. I'd see friends that on the surface always seemed to be in a very harmonious relationship, but then I'd go out with my buddy, you know, for a cocktail or a drink or go hang out, and I'd say, how's it going with your wife? You know how it is. And I just got tired of hearing that because I'm thinking to myself, why is it that way? I mean, just like money, you know, some people make making money really, really difficult. And I've discovered that it's not difficult, it's different. And so I started applying that principle to the idea of relationships. And I said, okay, Marshall, there are people that have relationships that don't fight, that on the surface are awesome, that behind the scenes in the dark are also awesome. If they have disagreements, they get over them quickly. They're harmonious. They live together as husband and wife, partners. Whether they're legally married or not is irrelevant, but they're partners for life in a harmonious relationship. So the question is, what are those relationships based on? Same thing with money. There are people with less intelligence. There are people with less work ethic, less willingness to, risk than you that make boatloads of money. Well, you have all those attributes and you're broke. So here is the adage of the day. If you're in a relationship right now and you want to have a better relationship, I'm going to give you some insights on how to have a better relationship. If you are single, I'm going to give you criteria on what you should be looking for to create that healthy, awesome relationship. If you're in a relationship that is struggling and you don't know whether or not it's the one for you, maybe by the end of our conversation, before I start taking calls in the vault, you'll have some insights of whether you need to change yourself or change your relationship. Because you either have to change the people you hang out with or change the people you hang out with. Those are the only two options. So one of the things that I did after I went through those two divorces, was a playboy, dated a whole bunch of people over an extended period of time, is I said, what you want is in a place you haven't looked. A healthy, vibrant, awesome relationship is something that you haven't looked for. So I literally got on my knees in front of God. And I said, God, bring me someone kind. That's the basis. No drama. I don't care how old they are. I don't care how young they are. I don't care what their body type is, skinny, fat, anything in the middle. I don't care what ethnicity they are. I don't care age, nothing. Just bring me someone kind. I don't want to do any more drama. In my life, I work, and I love my work. I haven't worked since I was 23 years old. My vocation is my vacation. Yet some people, being on this show, doing seminars, doing my live entertainment performances, some people would call work. I don't. I'm living my life on my terms, doing exactly what I want, and that's what I would have for you. But the challenge for most people is they don't believe that that's possible. They don't think if all I want to do is play music, that I can find a way to monetize it, not just at a lower level just to get by, but at a high level to thrive. They believe that, I couldn't possibly eat everything I want and then still have an amazing body. Well, the fact is you can eat anything you want and still have an amazing body. That's not the challenge. The challenge is what you want isn't healthy for you. So it's not changing what you can eat, it's changing what you want. Does that make sense? Same thing in relationship. If you keep saying, gosh, I need to find a relationship that's suitable for me, possibly, or maybe you need to change what a suitable relationship is to you. So for me, I said, God, find me someone kind. And I'm doing an event in Boston. There's 1,100 people at Turning Point, which, by the way, today I'm going to be giving away some Turning Point tickets worth $3,000 a piece so that you can bring yourself and a guest to a Turning Point here at Studio Money. Plus, you're going to get $100 cash when you call me, 877-SILVER1. I'm doing an event in Boston, 1,100 people. I walk up the center aisle, and I'd already prayed to God to give me someone kind. And as I walked up the aisle, I saw this most gorgeous, beautiful woman. And as I walked past her, she smiled up at me, and I looked at her, and I knew there was instant magic. And so my plan was I was going to hypnotize her to ask me out on a date without her knowing that I had hypnotized her or the audience knowing that I had hypnotized her. And so the first thing I did was you got to qualify your prospects in any sale. I stood on stage and I said, who here is single and would love to create an awesome, passionate relationship? Put your hand up, say, oh, yeah. She didn't put her hand up. So I said, she's not single. I said, okay, who here is in a relationship and wants more passion in that personal, intimate relationship? Put your hand up, say, oh, yeah. Not only did she not put her hand up, but she looked away from me. Now, when you attend at Turning Point, I'm going to teach you a very powerful process called cold reading. Cold reading dictates that every single thought has a physical response in the body. It is impossible for you to think a thought without your body projecting that out into the outside world and then creating the butterfly effect. So since every single thought has a physical response in the outside body, when I teach cold reading, which is reading body language, understanding what people are thinking by simply reading their body language, not relying on what comes out of their mouth. Her body language, by not putting her hand up when I asked if she was single, told me she was in a relationship. Her body language, by looking away when I said, who wants more passion in that relationship, clearly communicated she was in a relationship, she wasn't happy, didn't want more passion in it, and likely wanted to find a way out. Game on, baby. So then I went into the audience, and I am teaching 1,100 people. And as I was teaching, I stood near her. She's 4 rows back, center aisle. I stood in the center aisle right beside her desk. And I said, there are times in your life where what you're looking for is right in front of you. And I pointed at myself. And I said, in fact, it's so appealing, you know you want it badly, which is an embedded command. In fact, it's so close, and I put my hand right out kind of nonchalantly, seemingly randomly right in front of her, that what you want is so close, you could reach out and touch what you wanted. And she reached out, she grabbed my hand, all the audience laughed, she giggled and pulled my hand back. Anchor set, deal done, ready to go. So then what I did was I said, all right, we're about to go on break. And just so you know, when we go on break, I'm also on break. And I don't like to be asked questions when I'm on break. Yet, if you are in this audience, and I look directly at her, and you know you have a question for me that will change both of our lives, you and you alone have permission to approach me on the break and ask that very question. I nodded my head. I excused everybody. I sat on stage in my chair, and I watched everybody leave. I watched Erica, my bride, stand up, start to walk away. I could see the courage growing in her. She turned around, started to walk back. And when she walked back, she turned around again to walk away, and then she threw her hands in the air, turned around, walked all the way back to the stage. She said, look, I know you don't like being bothered on your break, and I have no idea why I'm doing this. And I'm thinking, well, I do. She said, if you're staying in this hotel, then maybe we could grab a cup of coffee or, something to eat after the seminar is over. I said, if staying in this hotel is a prerequisite, I will have my staff move me. You see, the thing was, I had plans for dinner. I had flown a woman in from New York to spend the weekend with me in Boston. She was in my room while the seminar was going on. I was about to go back upstairs and have dinner with her and spend the night with her. I said, I have plans for dinner already. I said, in order to get together with you after dinner, I'll need your cell phone number. So give me your cell phone number. Erica gave me her cell phone number. I took the woman that was in my room to dinner, and at dinner I said, something has come up. It wouldn't be appropriate for you to stay in my room for the weekend. I either need to put you back on a private jet, send you home, or put you up in another hotel. I'll send you home, at the end of the weekend if you want to stay here on vacation. And I sent her home. And I said, even though you're not going to be happy with me, it's the right thing to do. And I knew it was the right thing to do. Then I went back to my room, and I called Erica, and I said, we are in a hotel with 1,000 rooms, and everybody that's at my seminar is likely staying at this hotel. If we go down to the bar or the cafe, we're not going to get any privacy. Would you feel comfortable coming to my suite? Pretty smooth, right? I said, would you feel comfortable coming to my suite? And she said, sure. What should I do? I said, what room are you in? She said, I am in room, and she gave me the room number. In a hotel with 1,000 rooms, she was one number off of mine. I was in, I think, 1421, and she was in 1422. She was literally in the room directly across the hall. We hadn't seen each other. We didn't know that the other person was in that room. And she said, I'll be over there in a minute. So we hang up the phone, and all of a sudden I hear screaming going on in the hallway. I poked my head into the hallway, and I saw there was nobody there, and I realized the screaming was coming from her room. Oh, my God, he invited me to his room. What should I do? When you meet my wife, you'll realize she speaks just like that. So at any rate, the woman who had brought her as a guest to my seminar, my wife didn't have any idea who I was. She'd never heard of me ever. Imagine that. But the friend had brought her to my event. The friend said, you need to go to his room. You're going to marry that man. So I go back into the room, shut the door. I'm feeling rather confident. A couple minutes later, there's a knock on my door, and sure enough, Erica's at the door. And I open the door, and I don't say a word to her. I grab her by the hand. I draw her into the room. I put my arm around her waist, and I give her a kiss. And she collapses in my arms. And when she gets her knees back and stands back up, I said, tell me all about your boyfriend. And we sit down, and she tells me about her boyfriend. She's living with a guy. She's not happy. He's smoking dope every single day. He's a couch potato playing video games all day long. He's not motivated. He's not working. He's not contributing financially. He's not taking care of her sexual needs. Nothing is winning. She says, but I'm trapped. We have a joint lease, and I don't know how to get out of it. I'm working 3 jobs. I'm going to school. I'm searching, having a better life. That's why I'm at this seminar. I don't know what to do. And so for the next couple of months, every time I had a seminar, I would just fly her in, and we would get to know each other. And at 2 months, I said, this is wrong. You can't see me while you're living with another guy, and I realize you're in a bad circumstance, but I either need to, I'll pay for 3 months rent in another location. I'll help you go to your landlord and tell them you broke up with your boyfriend. You got to break the lease. He can stay, but I'll help you get situated for 3 months. And then after that, if you don't want to be with me, you'll be on your own. And even if you want to be with me after 3 months, you're still going to have to pay your own rent because that's the deal. And she took the deal. She moved into her new place. She was there for 2 weeks. She came out to visit me in Las Vegas for the weekend. And then, 19 years later, still waiting for her to go home. Never left, just stayed. Best decision I ever made in my entire life. But the decision to become involved with this human being, my beautiful bride, Erica, was based on the idea that I was looking for someone kind. That's all. Didn't matter what race, didn't matter what height, didn't matter what size, didn't matter what ethnicity. I just was looking for someone kind. So first and foremost, as we start talking about his needs and her needs, and we start talking about relationships on this show, the first thing I want to point out to you is, again, what you're looking for is in a place you haven't looked. What you're looking for is not necessarily somebody that's interested in classic cars or pickleball or, some activity. It's not necessarily even somebody that has the same religious or financial views that you have. The first and foremost thing you should be looking for in all your relationships is harmony. What is harmony? Harmony is a lack of drama. If you were to come to work for me, and we're hiring right now, by the way, at Studio Money, all sorts of people. We're hiring salespeople. We're hiring production people. We're hiring seminar people. We're hiring AV people. We're hiring admin people. We're hiring a lot of people right now. If you come to work for me, one of the first things I'm going to tell you is we don't do drama, ever. Nothing. No tolerance at all. You do drama with us once, you'll get a warning. You do drama with us twice, you'll get a final warning. You do drama a third time, you're gone. There's no question. We're just done. We don't have any room for it. So what's drama? Drama is voicing a challenge, filing a complaint without a solution. If you have a challenge, then what's the solution? What would make it right? What do you want? But if you're not able to do that at your work, guess what? You're not going to be able to do that in your relationships. You're not going to do that with your kids. You're going to get stuck in this hamster wheel. You know, right now we've got people in our world, in the political world, that they want to abolish ICE. And when people want to do that, I posted a question. I said, okay, so you want to abolish ICE. Then what? If you want to abolish ICE, does that mean you simply want illegals to stay? You want people to just be able to come and go freely through our border? That's kind of a recipe for absolute disaster. That's a way to ensure all we have are criminals here, because criminals know they're not stopped at the border. I said, so do you want to abolish ICE and have someone else police these illegal people that should not be in our country, that need to be deported and have been deported all through all time? Whereas it's not something new that Trump's doing, deporting people that are here illegally. Every president of all time has deported illegal people since immigration became a law. So do you want the police to deport these people? Is that what you want? Because the last time the police did anything, you said defund them. So I don't understand. You either want law and order or you don't. And it appears that there's a lot of people that just don't want law and order. They want to scream about pretty and good and say, oh my God, you know, their rights were violated. You killed these innocent people. Yet they want to pretend that the thousands, literally thousands of people that have been raped and murdered by illegal aliens, criminals in the country, should just be ignored. Basically what they're saying is we support these radical rioters more than we support the victims that have been killed by the people that these radical rioters are resisting. Makes no sense. So in your relationships, you got to stop being insane. You got to say, all I want is harmony. And you got to look for red flags. When you first start dating people, if they treat the waitress or the waiter poorly, note that. That's how they're going to treat you. If you're dating somebody that consistently needs things to be right because they deserve things to be a certain way, and I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about they deserve a bigger birthday gift. I'm talking about they deserve to have you open the door for them, that they deserve for you to submit to them. If you're a woman in a relationship with a narcissistic guy that says, no, you got to submit to me, that's what the Bible says, that's all BS. Should a woman submit to her husband? Absolutely. And I'm going to get into that in a moment, not because it's good for the husband, because it's good for both parties. I own my companies. I am the leader of my companies. The buck stops with me. When things are tough, my employees always and forever have always gotten paid. When things are tough, guess who doesn't get paid? Me. Why? Because I'm the leader of my household. I'm the leader of my business. So in my relationship with Erica, in my marriage, yes, I'm the alpha. I'm the leader of the household. Yes, my wife submits to me. Now, a lot of times women don't realize that submission is the power. Gandhi submitted. He surrendered. He peacefully overcame all that was attacking him by surrendering, Christ-like. The scripture, and I don't care what your religion, it doesn't really matter, but there's some good pointers in there. One of the pointers is forgive them for they know not what they do. And I think that's really powerful. If someone smacks you and you turn the other cheek and they smack you again and you turn the other cheek, they're gonna quit smacking you. Why? Because they realize it has no power over you. I'm not suggesting you do that. Heck, I wouldn't do that. I just punch them back. But what I'm telling you is that submission is a power. Surrender is one of your ultimate powers. In fact, when you're dealing with a massive amount of challenge in any area of your life, whether it's relationships, whether it's building wealth, whether it's anything, surrender is an immediate way for you to get real, to get present, to be able to deal with what emerges in that singular moment, because in that singular moment, what happens is you can actually see what's going on. So the first thing you want to look for in a healthy relationship is to understand that relationships are built on harmony. What does that mean? No drama. Don't allow it. In fact, starting today, if you're in a relationship, go to your partner and say, I'd like to form a new agreement. The new agreement is no drama. And they'll say, okay, what does that mean to you? What it means to me is that if you have a challenge with me, you bring it to me. You tell me not what the challenge is, you tell me what do you want. Telling me what the challenge is won't help your circumstance. Nature abhors a vacuum. I hate it when you interrupt me is different than saying, please let me finish my sentences. It's very different. I hate it when you interrupt me puts the focus on interrupting me. And if I tell you to not think of pink elephants, you've got to actually think of pink elephants to not think of pink elephants. So if I tell you to not interrupt me, then while you're talking to me, I'm going to be thinking, don't interrupt, don't interrupt, don't interrupt, 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 interrupt. And then I'm going to interrupt you. So you got to ask for what you want, not for what you don't want. That's the first part of it. The second part of it is, imagine though we're in a relationship and you bring a challenge to me and you say, quit leaving the toilet seat up. And I say, well, I think that's rather selfish. And you say, what do you mean by that? And I say, well, I lift the toilet seat up to pee. You put the toilet seat down to pee. You never lift it up for me. So why should I put it down for you? It doesn't make any sense. I've got to walk in and lift it up. And your brain says, no, it's the man's job to put the toilet seat down. It's not my job. It could be an agreement. It's not my job, though. And it's not even considerate for me to put it down if it's not considerate for you to leave it up. See how that works? So healthy relationships understand those double-edged swords. They understand that there's a trade-off. There's no right or wrong. There's just a consequence. It's not right or wrong to leave the toilet seat up or down. There's a consequence. And if every single time I leave the toilet seat up, my wife screams at me, well, guess what? That's probably not going to motivate me to leave it down because I may realize my wife screams at me about everything. But if my wife doesn't scream at me for the toilet seat being up, but gently asks me, would you mind considering when you leave the bathroom putting the seats down? Would that be okay with you? Gosh, I love my wife. Yeah, that's a great way to ask for what you want. But what if I don't want to put the toilet seat down? Well, then you have to decide. You've got to say, do I want to be in a relationship with a toilet seat guy? Do I want to be in a place where he doesn't think I'm important enough to put the toilet seat down? But then I would also have to consider, do I really want to be in a relationship with a woman that thinks having the toilet seat down, number one, is an indication of our relationship, a big deal, or number two, that isn't considerate enough to leave the toilet seat up for me while asking me to put it down for her. That's how that works. Relationships are built on agreements. Every relationship is different. Your relationship is not like mine. My relationship with my beautiful bride is that she gives me sexual attention anytime I want it. In fact, oftentimes will simply ask me, do you want attention? That's our code for saying she's not really interested, yet she realizes I have needs. Now, I imagine there might be some women watching this right now that might have a different sexual appetite than their husbands that think that's a horrible thing. Hear me out on this. If your appetite is less than your husband's and your husband's is greater than yours, first and foremost, you don't want to play with his appetite toward you. You don't want to diminish that because that's dangerous. If you diminish his turn on or attraction to you, then that could be a falling sword. That could be something that you'll live to regret later on. So if it were me, I wouldn't play with that. But if it were me, I would also say, okay, his desire is so much greater than mine, which, by the way, my desire is substantially greater than Erica's. His desire is greater than mine, but if I'm the woman, I need to recognize this absolute truth, and that is unmet needs get met. So if you keep denying your husband sexual attention, guess what? If he still wants it, he's going to get it somewhere else. He's going to get it from his secretary. He's going to get it from that cute girl at Starbucks. He's going to get it from the woman that plays tennis on the court beside him. Unmet needs get met, and it's across the board. It's both ways. So don't think that men or women have a monopoly on that. If my wife, which, by the way, she does, wants more physical attention, not sexual attention, more affection, more hugs, more kisses, more pats on the butt than I do, then I better give them to her. Here's why. Erica does not like me to walk past her and not give her some kind of physical attention or acknowledgement. If she's in the kitchen, she's at the sink, she's rinsing dishes, and I'm walking over to get water from the water purification system, and I walk past her to go get a glass of water, she expects me to kiss her or pat her on the butt or give her a quick squeeze on the way to get the water. That's okay. I understand that. But if I don't give her another one on the way back with the water, I can feel her body literally lean toward me. So I give her that hug, not because I think it's necessary. I think it's too much. But I also know it's what she wants. And if what she wants is something that she's made me the sole provider of, I better provide it. It's my job, actually. It's my obligation of marriage to give her love in a way that is meaningful to her. So if you're a wife or a husband, for that matter, and your spouse, your significant other, has hungers in an area, whether it's non-sexual physical attention, whether it's sex, whether it's dining out, whether it's seeing movies, whether it's exercise, whatever it is, you better figure out a way to meet their needs or at least compromise on their needs. I'm a Christian. I love God. And the reason I'm a Christian is the ideologies of the Christian religion and the Christian faith most align with what I believe to be true, what I hold as God and the spiritual side of my life. Doesn't matter what you believe. I don't care what you believe. You believe whatever you believe. That said, though, I'm a Christian with a lot of questions. I am. And I would be in denial if I didn't say that I was. And it's okay. And the people that love me, it's okay. My pastor knows I got a lot of questions. And that doesn't mean it minimizes or dilutes my faith. I just have questions. So in a relationship, you're not diminishing your relationship by having questions. You're not diminishing your relationship by making requests that you might not even think are requests that the other party would want to have made. When my wife and I met, I drank alcohol very well, mind you. I've always liked fine wines. I've always loved high-end tequilas and good rums, always. And when we met, I drank a lot. And during the time that we were together early on, I realized she didn't drink. She had a sip of wine or two. She enjoyed some Cristal champagne because she'd never had it when we first met, but she never really drank. I'd order wine, and I'd pour her a glass, and she'd have less than a sip. She didn't drink. She doesn't drink. Fairly soon into our relationship, she started saying, gosh, I sure would love it if you didn't drink. No nagging, no nastiness, no being mean to me, just gentle requests over time. I thought to myself, I'm going to stop drinking when Sterling, my son, is born, and I did for a while, and then I decided that I wasn't ready to, didn't want to. All my kids were born, and then over 2.5 years ago, probably right around 1,000 days about now, one day I just said, you know what, I'm done. I just don't want this anymore for so many reasons. I've had my fair share. I've had your fair share. I've had everyone's fair share. I'm done. And I'm thrilled that I have. I'm thrilled that I'm living a different life, that I'm experimenting with my life, and I couldn't be happier. I'll never drink alcohol again. And I really enjoyed it. It's just not something I want in my life. I don't want the health challenges. I don't want the nonsense. I don't want all that goes with it. And I want to be a better example to my kids. My point in this, though, is that Erica wanted me to change the agreement of our relationship. The unspoken agreement of our relationship, because she met me when I drank, was that I drink. The request to change that agreement was, I would like you to stop drinking because I want you around for as long as possible. Didn't nag, didn't demand, didn't threaten, just kept requesting. And now, because I don't drink on my own terms, no angst, all good. 877-SILVER1 is the number to call. Top of the hour, we start taking calls. Every single person that calls in gets $100. Hey, by the way, if you haven't registered for an account at MarshallSilverLive.com, you need to do that before you call in. That's how you'll get on the air. We need your data. We need to know who we're talking to. But the other reason you want to go to MarshallSilverLive.com and register is when you register, you'll get an affiliate link. And that affiliate link is what you'll use to tell other people about this show that goes off every single day, Monday through Friday from 10 till noon. And when they call in, not only will your friends get $100, and they can take you to lunch, by the way, you'll also get $20 when they call in, because every single person that you refer to the show that calls in, you'll get $20 override just for referring them. MarshallSilverLive.com. In relationships, there's also not only are relationships built on agreements, and if you want a new agreement, you got to offer an amendment. One of the agreements that Erica and I have is we don't deny each other any kind of physical attention. She doesn't deny me sex, even if she's not interested. I don't deny her hugs or kisses or cuddles or holds, even if they're 10 times longer than I think they should be, or even that I want them to be. I give her what she wants. Why? Because in marriage, we made an agreement to be the sole provider of those areas of our lives. And if you're in a relationship and you made that agreement to your spouse and then you deny them, then the consequence is you'll probably end up not in that relationship anymore. Unmet needs get met. There's no right or wrong. There's consequence. So how are men and women different? Men and women are different based on one major core element of our personalities. And if you're taking notes, take note on this. First and foremost, men want to be primarily recognized for their ability to produce. I'll say it again. Men want to be primarily recognized for their ability to produce. What does that mean? They want to be recognized by what they can do, how well they can protect, how much money they can acquire, how much of a luxurious life they can provide. Not only do men want to be noticed and acknowledged for their ability to produce, that basis, their ability to produce, is the selection criteria for how women will select them. Sometimes men get angry. I have a friend of mine was dating this gorgeous woman, and she was sexy, she was funny, she owned a salon, she was making good money. I thought she was a good catch for this friend of mine. And one day, my friend and I are having lunch, and I said, where's Cindy? How's Cindy doing? And he said, oh, we broke up. And I said, really? What happened? He said, well, she made me pay for lunch every time. I said, okay. He said, well, she makes money. She's got a good business. She could pay for lunch too. And I said, okay, but you broke up with her over lunch? Yeah. Over 70, 80 bucks max a day every time you went out to lunch? You broke up with her over that? He said, yes. I said, you do realize that the hiring process of finding a new girlfriend, spouse, whatever you want to call it, is way more expensive than a lunch. You know that. You're still going to have to buy lunch. In fact, you're going to have to buy a few more lunches again, and you might end up with a lesser product. So the guys that get upset about the idea that a woman is looking for a man that can produce, oh, she only loves him for his money. Well, no shit, Sherlock. That is why she loves him. She loves him because he's demonstrating that he can produce. She loves him because he's showing that he's man enough to step up his game and make that happen. Now, if you're a guy watching this show and I'm making you uneasy, God bless you. I love you, and I want to make you less uneasy. I want to teach you about making money so you're not frustrated in this way. I get it. I understand. I was raised poor, and I watched guys with money steal all the girls. I get it. Know this for sure. The system's not fair, yet the system is what it is. Now, that said, women are primarily acknowledged and in relationships not for what they can produce, for their attractiveness. Yes, for how good they look. Now, a lot of women are going to get pissed off at this ideal about me suggesting this to be a reality, but I believe in God. And I believe that we were designed by a higher power that was way more smarter than anybody here. And my belief of the idea that men are based on production, women are based on attraction, was built on the idea that God, in an infinite wisdom, designed us this way for a reason. If a man is not productive, he cannot protect the people that he leads. He cannot protect his household, cannot protect his wife, cannot provide for his wife. So if I'm not productive, I'm not going to be able to provide for my family. And if my family is formed underneath me while I'm not producing, my family will suffer for that. They will not thrive. They will not grow. They will not expand. If a woman is not willing to take care of herself physically, then that woman, as she becomes less and less healthy, no matter how productive the man is, if you've got a productive or even a non-productive male, that man will breed with this unattractive woman, and he will give birth to fat and ugly and unattractive children. I said it out loud. I did. I learned about sex when I was 7 years old. The first house I lived in was a home that had no running water, no electricity, no phone. Often we had little, sometimes no food. The house got condemned, and we were forced out of the house. And myself and my 9 siblings at the time, we lived in a station wagon for 30 days. It was a cold Michigan winter. The local community realized we were going to die, and so they renovated a chicken coop. We lived in a chicken coop, and the chicken coop was awesome. I really enjoyed it. When we moved into the chicken coop house, we also had a number of dogs because we couldn't spay or neuter the dogs. So we had 30 dogs. The dog pound came, took all except for one dog. The one dog they didn't take was this toy collie mutt that we had named Lady. One day, right, 7, 8 years old, while we're living in the chicken coop house, my mom comes to me and she said, "Sweetheart, we're going to have to put Lady in a pen, a chain link fence pen, because Lady is in heat." Now, for those of you that don't understand the concept of heat, Heat, obviously, meant that Lady was ready to breed. Lady was ready to mate and make babies. When a dog is in heat, dogs for miles around will note it. I don't know if it's a scent. I don't know if it's a frequency. I think it's a psychic acknowledgement that dogs within miles will know that that female dog is in heat. But we've also, in the English language, got a usage of that word that applies in other areas too, doesn't it? So if somebody is being pursued by the police, they'll say, oh, the heat is on. There's a whole song about it. If they are doing well in their career, people will say, oh, they've got some good heat on their career. When somebody's competing against somebody else, they'll say, oh, yeah, they put the heat on toward the end of the game. So here's what I tell you. Heat is attention. That's what heat is. Heat is attention. Napoleon Hill, in his book Think and Grow Rich, devoted an entire chapter to a concept he called sexual transmutation. What is sexual transmutation? Sexual transmutation is taking sex energy, turn on, and transmuting it into something different, and specifically into charisma. Why specifically charisma? Because when you take sexual transmutation and you convert it into, when you take sex energy and you transmute it into charisma, it draws people to you. Now, I'm no fan of Bill Clinton. He's a criminal. He's a pedophile. He's a criminal. He's a nasty, nasty, nasty human being. And his wife is a worse human being, if we could even call her that. I'm not a fan of Bill Clinton. I've shared the stage with Bill Clinton on numerous occasions, and not now, not recently, but back then when I had shared the stage with him 35 years ago, I've never been in the presence of a more charismatic, dynamic human being. I've never been. It was almost supernatural. It was scary. It was witchcraft. It was. And what I realized was his mindset, his brain about who he is, it was such an entitled brain, such a superior, I'm better than you persona that it leaked everywhere. I'm standing backstage with him, and I'm talking to him, and I watched woman after woman walk up and just be all big-eyed. Oh, Bill Clinton, President Clinton, nice to meet you. The MC of the show, of the speaker series, was this big pregnant woman. She's got to be 31 months pregnant. She was huge. She was the MC of the event. She comes off stage after interviewing somebody else, walks backstage, sees Bill Clinton talking to me, and she walks over, leading with her belly, and just walks up, hello, President Clinton, so nice to meet you. Bill reaches down, he grabs her belly, he says, I see you're with child. He starts rubbing her belly without permission. And I'm thinking, Bill, that gets you in trouble every single time. You got to knock that stuff off. So at any rate, charisma is created through sexual transmutation. Charisma is created through confidence. Confidence is what makes us attractive. So if you're a woman, and I suggest that the woman's energy is primarily an energy of attraction, don't get upset with me. Get upset with yourself. Get upset with yourself for not having the confidence to be able to attract somebody. Confidence isn't based on body type. I've seen a lot of women that might not be maybe the ideal American or European type of body, but there's plenty of places in the world where fat-bottom girls make the rockin' world go round. So it's not about the exact shape of a body or the color of your skin or the cut of your hair. It's got nothing to do with it. Confidence has everything to do with the way you think about yourself. And the way you think about yourself is how you'll carry yourself, and how you carry yourself is the thing that creates attraction. So if men are based on productivity and women are based on attraction, then what do I do to be better in a relationship? Well, if I'm in the male energy, and by the way, when I talk about energy and I talk about that idea of attraction, I go back to the concept of what I was talking about with Lady. So my mom tells me Lady's in heat, and because Lady's in heat, we should put her in a chain link fence and lock her up so that we don't have any more babies. We can't afford to have any more puppies. We just can't do it. So my mom locks Lady up in this pen, and she also tells me that she's going to let the neighbors know to tie their dogs up too so they don't come down and attempt to mate with Lady. Now, our one neighbor was probably half a mile away in rural Michigan, and he had a dog, and his dog's name was Sergeant. Sergeant was this old, toothless, belly dragging wiener dog. And when my mom went down to the neighbor and said, you need to lock Sergeant up, my neighbor laughed, said, oh, Virginia, Sergeant doesn't want to mate anymore. He's a toothless, belly-dragging, old, fat wiener dog. He don't want to mate anymore. I don't know about you, but I know a lot of toothless, belly-dragging, old wiener dogs that want to mate given half a chance. They still do. If they think there's any shot at it, they'll swing the bat, albeit the bat will be limp. So I am in my bedroom looking out the window at the chain link fence, and I see Sergeant coming up the driveway, dragging his belly, panting the whole way because it's a long walk for an old, out-of-shape, fat, belly-dragging wiener dog. And so he's coming up to the pen like this. He gets to Lady's pen, and one of the first things I noticed is that Lady is in the pen, and Lady is barking at him. Ruff, 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 ruff. Get away from me, get away from me. Which is puzzling to my 7-year-old brain because I'm thinking to myself, my mom told me Lady was ready to mate. Why is she barking at Sergeant? He's here to mate. Why is she barking at him? I come to realize that this is true, not just with dogs, this is true with all beings, that the female resists the male's desire to mate to perpetuate the breed. I'll say it again. The female resists the male's desire to mate, requests to mate, to perpetuate the breed. My sons are 14 and 12, and I'm teaching them about women right now. And I tell them that even women that like you will pretend they don't. And I know, as I look at my boys' faces, as I didn't understand it back then, they don't get it. They go, that doesn't make any sense. If she likes me, why does she pretend she doesn't like me? It's to test the validity of the request, to make sure she doesn't give birth to fat, toothless, belly-dragging wiener dogs. That's it. That's it. Because if she breeds with that first one that shows up, it diminishes the race. There's a movie I just came across the other day. And, gosh, the name, it'll come to me. Owen Wilson, not Owen Wilson, Luke Wilson. And it's a movie about dumb people breeding. Do a quick, Idiocracy. Thank you so much. It's such a good movie. The movie's called Idiocracy. And the premise of the movie is these two people, a guy and a girl, get frozen in time, supposedly for, they're supposed to be frozen for a year. During the time they're frozen, though, the program that they're involved with gets shut down. The scientist running the program gets locked up for fraud, and the whole building gets imploded. Nobody remembers they've been frozen in time. They come out of their frozen state supposedly 500 years later, which kind of seemed like a chink in the storyline because it didn't look like 500 years later, it looked like 50 years later. But at any rate, the concept of the story, though, was that they get frozen in time, they come out, and everybody's stupid. I mean, they're morons, they're idiots. Why? Because what happened was, as things got worse and worse and worse, the smart people realized they didn't want to bring babies into the world where everybody was stupid. The stupid people were stupid, so they just kept breeding. They just kept having more and more and more babies, and because they were stupid, every time they bred, their babies were dumber and dumber and dumber. So when they come out of this freeze, they're the smartest people on the planet. Maybe it was a documentary. Maybe that's what it was. It was a documentary. Anyway, Idiocracy, it's the movie. So that, in my belief, is the reason that when Sergeant showed up at Lady's cage, Sergeant Sergeant saw that there was a big cage. Lady started barking at him, but Sergeant also not only was listening to the barking and going, man, I got to put up with that, he also realized that there was a chain link fence he needed to get around, and he said, it's too much work, it's too much effort, turned around, took his belly-dragging, toothless self home. 2 miles the other way, my best friend, Jimmy LaFontaine, lived. 2 miles the other way, Jimmy also had a dog, and his name was Saint. Saint was this highly energized German Shepherd, Saint. And this German Shepherd not only was high energy, young, healthy, but this German Shepherd named Saint would hump anything in his realm. How did I know that he would hump anything in his realm? Because frequently I was in his realm. And so I would go to Jimmy's house and the dog would race after me and tackle me to the ground and start dry humping my leg. So I go over to Jimmy's house to tell Mr. LaFontaine that ladies in heat, please lock Saint up. And sure enough, while I'm standing there, Saint runs over, jumps on my back, bites me on the back of my neck, and starts humping on me. It's funny how you can grow fond of certain things. So at any rate, Mr. LaFontaine says, yes, of course, Marshall, we'll lock Saint up. And so he ties Saint up to a rope. Jimmy tells me later that Saint, sensing that Lady was in heat, chewed the rope in two pieces, literally bit the rope that was tying him up in two pieces and came running down the street to come mate with Lady. Now, when he gets there, Lady does the same thing that Lady had done to Sergeant. Lady starts barking. Ruff, 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 get away from me, get away from me, get away from me. But Saint responds differently. He doesn't take it personally. He says, oh, so you like me, do you? You like me. You're talking to me. I like it when you talk to me. Oh, tell me no. Oh, yeah, that's fun. I'll play with your resistance. And he plays with the resistance. And then he starts to dig underneath the chain link fence. And he's digging furiously. The chain link fence isn't going to stop him. All the complaining and resistance in the world isn't going to stop him from making his request. He's going to get under the fence. He's going to make his request, and he's going to see what happens. That's productivity. People that succeed, we hear no, just like people that don't succeed. We just keep going, though. We keep playing with the resistance, which is a really good strategy in life. So he digs underneath the chain link fence. He apparently didn't dig enough because when he gets inside of it, he cut the whole side of his shoulder wide open on the bottom of the chain link fence. He's got a flap of skin hanging there. He's got blood running down the side of his leg, but he's happy. Let's mate, let's mate, let's mate. I bought you beer and pizza. Let's mate. And Lady is still barking at him. And so this goes on for a little while. Lady's resisting. He's just happy and bouncing around. And finally, Lady stops complaining, and they mate. And it probably lasted, I don't know, 5 seconds. And, you know, as a 7-year-old boy about to be a man, watching how long that lasted, all I could think was, oh, my God, how will I ever live up to that? So they get done mating. Sergeant leaves immediately. Saint leaves immediately, which I'm taking notes. Leave right away. Got to leave right away. And a lady has a cigarette. And that's all I know about sex. But what I do know is that whole process that played out in front of me as a 7 or 8-year-old kid is the process that human beings play out on a regular basis. Woman's job is to resist. Man's job is to play with the resistance. Woman's job is to provide the inspiration. And again, if you're a professional woman, don't get your panties tied in a wad. Yes, there are productive women. There are attractive men who are not productive. Sometimes roles are completely flipped in relationships. Doesn't matter. But there needs to be that in a relationship. If you're both productive, then you'll butt heads all the time. If you're both attractive and nobody's productive, you'll both die. So in healthy relationships, somebody is the primary producer. Somebody is the primary attractor. The attractor needs to stay healthy. My beautiful bride was up at 5 a.m. doing her yoga class. Why? Because she's about to celebrate a milestone birthday, and she just wants to stay healthy. She wants to be a good example to our children. She wants to be an inspiration to me. She wants to remain hot and desirable to me. Why? Because I'm a phenomenal producer. My relationship with my wife is really simple. She takes care of me. I take care of everything. So I pray that we gave you some insights in relationship, maybe some things to think about, maybe even some things to call me at 1-877-SILVER1 and chat about. If you got relationship stuff going on, if you've got things happening either to work for you or things that maybe are turmoil in your relationship, all you got to do, call 1-877-SILVER1, and I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions. Remember, every single time you call in, a $100 cash gift for you when you call in every single time, and a $20 gift to anybody that you referred who also calls into the show. Not to mention the fact that when you call in, I'm also going to give you 2 tickets to an event I've got called Turning Point. When you call in, you'll go through a screener just to be sure you're a real person. If your question is interesting and fascinating, the screener will tell you you're fascinating. We'll send you a link to get you into the green room here at Sterling Worldwide Studio at Studio Money, and we'll get you on the air. 1-877-SILVER1 to get on the air. Every single person gets $100. We've given away, by the way, on my live programs, over $350,000 over the course of the years that I've been doing my broadcast. $100 to $1,000 at a time. In fact, our biggest cash prize we've given on my live broadcast was $13,500. So we like giving away cash. It's good for me. It's good for you. It creates velocity in the marketplace. Everybody wins. To give you an idea of what we're going to be giving away on today's show, take a look. This is Turning Point.
Turning Point. A total change in direction for the better.
Who here is ready for a turning point? You absolutely have to have one. Put them high.
The 2-day Turning Point seminar is different than any other program in that it does more than just teach you the skills for your relationships, wealth, and power. It also programs you on a subconscious level to put those skills into immediate use.
This weekend is about empowerment. This weekend is about you understanding how to take charge of your own life.
You will learn total control of your thoughts and emotions. How to use PND, or psychoneural duplication, to take on the thoughts and actions of others to produce similar results. Whether it's losing weight, changing habits, being a millionaire.
When you think what a millionaire thinks and you do what a millionaire does, you'll produce similar results.
You will learn to program these powerful tools at a subconscious level for immediate and lasting results.
Your conscious mind is what's called your critical factor. It's the mind you're using right now to determine whether the information I'm giving to you will work for you or not. Your subconscious mind, on the other hand, is merely a computer. It's non-critical. It doesn't even have the ability to make judgment. So all trance, hypnosis, reprogramming is setting aside the critical factor of your conscious mind and non-critically accepting suggestions.
And empowering.
To make a fear vanish, you must experience it fully.
As it helps you create your life exactly the way you want it. Bring your family closer. Find the love of your life. Create strategies for wealth. Learn irresistible influence and so much more. Because of the intimate nature of this course, seats are very limited. Register now before your life passes you by and there are no more turning points for you. Tens of thousands of people have learned this information and are using it daily.
You don't get angry if you get fired from your job and you know that within 2 years you will be a multi-millionaire.
It's your time.
There's a way for you to win this game that is different than how you're doing it, and it works.
It's your life.
When you learn how to do that, you become more powerful, and power is for use.
It's your turning point.
We are live in the vault. You know what that means. The phone lines are open. Now you can call 1-877-SILVER1. Get on the air, and every single person that gets on the air gets $100. We've been giving away $100 every single time everybody's called in. All you got to do is call. I got lots of cash to give away, and I want to give it to you. Will $100 make a difference in your life? I don't know. It's a nice dinner. It could pay your cell phone bill. Doesn't matter what it is. In the news, a lot's going on. You know, we talked about it at the top of the hour. Lots going on. And I want to keep coming back to the fact that we are in one of the greatest periods of time that we've ever been in. I promise you. Everything that has been holding us back is now not holding us back. Apple is about to be producing their goods and services here in the United States again. Chip manufacturing about to start happening here in the States rather than in China, which is definitely something that we have to do. Oil production, drill, baby. We got drilling going on. GDP is up. Inflation is down. The Federal Reserve is the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Powell, is about to be replaced by somebody that is definitely friendlier to our economy, and that will be a wonderful, wonderful thing. Everything is pointed in the right direction. Some people point to metals rising and falling as the velocity in the economy or the economy not being stable. That's not what's going on. Precious metals, yes, they are the basis of our current economy. We are on a fiat currency right now. What's a fiat currency? A fiat currency is a currency that has nothing behind it. Back in 1971, Tricky Dick Nixon took us off the gold standard, which meant the value of our currency was measured against. No, most people don't understand. The value of our currency was measured against the value of gold. When it's taken off the gold standard, the value of the currency is all based on hypnosis. And so what you've got to do is you've got to be able to take a look at what the hypnosis is going on and determine the public confidence. What's that mean? When I'm confident, I spend money. When I believe the economy is doing well, I am freer with where my money goes. When I'm scared, I hold tighter onto my money. Yes, I do. Part of the challenge for people in understanding what's going on in their own personal finances is, once again, we get back what we send out. So if you're sending out things that aren't getting the result that you want, what you've got to do is step back and say, why am I not getting what I want? If you are a single person and you're wanting to create a better relationship, then what has to happen is you've got to find a target-rich environment. What is that? A would and a could, a place where there would be people that might be interested in you, but yet rather could also be in a relationship with you, meaning they're single and available. If you were wanting to make money and you're not making money, yet you keep putting it out into the universe, the challenge is that they're not interested in what you're selling, or they're not interested in their perception of what you're selling. You might have a great product and a bad marketing message. Since the world is an echo to everything that you've got going on, then the people that succeed are always the ones that have the highest level of personal responsibility. Long term, it's always going to be that way. Short term, people can con and scam and fraud their way to success. Long term success is based upon having real product, real service, and real value for other people. So if you have a question today about relationships, if you have a question about money, if you have a question about your business, if you have a question about sex, if you have a question about politics, if you want to call and rant, maybe you tuned in and you think I'm a moron, you can certainly call me and I'll pay you even to call me a moron if, in fact, that's what you think, and we'll have a discussion about it. Doesn't matter. You don't need to like me. You don't need to agree with me. What you do need to do is have a clever question, just a good question. 877-SILVER1. One last thing before I open up the phone lines, one last thing that I want to talk about. It is February, and my family is divided into two camps, the February people and the May people. When my wife became pregnant with my son Sterling and let me know that she was pregnant, first and foremost, I'd always prayed for a son. I'd always wanted to have a son, and I'd always wanted to name him Sterling. And when she told me she was pregnant and I started doing the math, he was due the first week of June. My birthday is May 19th. He was due the first week of June. And so I kept hypnotizing her to give birth a little bit early, a couple weeks early, so that my son would be born on my birthday. That's what I wanted for my birthday. Sterling came 6 hours before my 49th birthday. And I think that it was his psychic way of telling me and the universe, Dad, I love you. I don't want to disappoint you. I won't show up late. And he's never late, by the way. He said, but I do want my own day. I just want my own identity. And that would be very much a description of my son Sterling's personality. When my son Maximus was born, he was due also a few weeks after Erica's birthday in February. He was born February 25th. When Prosperity was in Mama's belly, she was due 2 weeks after my wife's birthday. Erica's birthday is February 13th, which is a day that is called Mistress Day. For those that are looking it up, the day before Valentine's is called Mistress Day. Erica's birthday is February 13th. I hypnotized her to give birth to Prosperity on her birthday. And when she gave birth 2 days before her birthday, so Prosperity's birthday is February 11th. Erica's birthday is February 13th, Maximus February 25th, Sterling May 18th, me May 19th. For their birthdays, for the February birthdays, and specifically Erica and Prosperity's because they're close together, we always do some kind of an adventure trip. And this adventure trip, we're going to Disneyland, And at Disneyland, I don't go to theme parks that don't have VIP tours. I won't. There's so much time standing in lines. You got to put up all the nonsense. If you go to Disney without a VIP pass, then you're going to be likely you're going to be in lines all day long. You're probably going to get on 2 or 3 rides and probably spend at least 4 to 5 hours just standing in lines. A VIP pass is very, very expensive. It's a 7-hour minimum, and I don't know what it is today because Erica handled the arrangements, but I think it's $700 an hour. So what is that? $4,900 up front just for the VIP tour guide, and you still have to buy park tickets on top of that. You still have to buy the park tickets, which are about $150 a piece for Disney right now. You can bring 10 people. We have 5 people in our family, and my daughter, Prosperity, for her birthday, is bringing 2 of her girlfriends. That's 7 people, which means I've got 3 additional VIP seats to Disneyland. 3 seats to come tour Disneyland with us in a VIP setting that I may just give away to some random caller on this broadcast. So guaranteed, you got cash coming to you if you call in. You've got 2 tickets to Turning Point your way, $3,000 a piece when you call in. And just maybe, I'll even throw in a ticket or 2 VIP pass to Disney. And I've got to tell you, if you've never done Disney or any of the theme parks on their VIP programs, it's an entirely different experience. I have a friend of mine, an Inner Circle student named Alan Eichenberg. And Alan had been going to Disneyland his entire life, lived in Anaheim, had year-long season passes to Disneyland every single year, his whole life. He came with us on one of our trips to Disneyland on a VIP tour, and he said, I've never experienced Disneyland like this. So if you think you might want to join me at Disneyland, if you definitely want $100 cash and a free ticket or 2 to Turning Point, you give me a call now. 1-877-SILVER1 is the toll-free number you can call. You'll talk to a screener. We'll find out if you're the one for us, if it makes sense, if your call's interesting, or if you're a dud. And if you're interesting, we'll put you on the air, just like we're putting – who's on the air with me? We got Michael from St. Petersburg, Florida. You are live on the air. Welcome home.
Hey, thanks, Marshall. Great to talk with you. Wow, you said a lot of things that really hit me today. And so I need to take ownership of some of that stuff. And I'm a single guy. And, I may not be the pot belly, wiener dog.
Belly dragon wiener dog.
But, dating in today's world requires a lot of discernment. And I would say that I can do better in that area. I listened to how you called in your mate, and I thought that was not only beautiful, but it worked. It was authentic, and you meant it, and you got it. And so that inspired me a lot, Marshall. And I think if everybody else is out there single and they're dating, really listen to what Marshall had to say. We receive in this life what we choose.
My mother stopped dating when she was 55 years old. And the reason she stopped dating is she had been married 4 times. My siblings are from 5 different fathers. She'd been married 4 times. And she just gave up. She just said, maybe marriage and relationship isn't for me. And for the last 30 years of her life, she devoted it to her children. And I think there's a lot of people in that realm that have gone through dating, been in relationships, maybe even had marriages or even kids, that get to a point where they just say, it's just easier to be single. And I would agree that it would be easy to get to that end result. But what I want to tell those people, yourself, Michael, included, is that if you think it's easier to be single, I will tell you it's just because you've been in bad relationships. My belief now that I'm with Erica is that my life is infinitely easier. So blessed that I couldn't even imagine not having her as a partner, how hard my life would be. That's a partnership, though. That's not a relationship. That's a partnership. One of the things that is required for a healthy relationship is there's no threat of ending the relationship. In other words, when we get into fights, she doesn't say, well, I'm going to divorce you or I'm going to leave you. And I don't say, hey, if you like it so much, you should be on your own. When we have disagreements, that's nowhere in the conversation. And the reason that's nowhere in the conversation is early on, we both agreed that if either one of us got to the point where we were so unhappy that we wanted to say that it was over, that we both agreed it was over, that there was no coming back from that. So you don't say those words unless you're absolutely 10,000% positive, because if you'll say those words and then let them go, come back from those words, it's just going to be the demise of the relationship anyway. It's just going to get worse and worse over time. So number one, we don't go there. But number two, We are a partnership. And so, as an example, like I said in the first segment, my agreement with Erica is she takes care of me, I take care of everything else. So, taking care of me means my home. When I go into my home, that's my castle. That's my environment. Erica meets me at the door. And even though she's had a day of running the kids around and doing what she does, she meets me at the door. She has me sit on the couch. She takes off my shoes and socks. She massages my feet. She asks me, what do you think you would want for dinner? She might ask me, are you wanting any kind of physical attention? Meaning, do you want sex? And all of that is very direct, very clear, very honest communication. Why would she do that? Because she gets everything she wants. And I'm not just talking about physically. I'm talking about everything. If she tells me my dad really wants to come out on vacation and, visit his grandchildren, her dad works his butt off. The guy is a really good man, doesn't earn much money, living back in Vermont. And so if he wants to do a vacation in San Diego, he can't afford it on his lifestyle. I pick up the tickets for him and his bride to come out and visit their grandchildren. If Erica tells me, I'm not happy with my iPhone, I say, great, let's go get you a new phone. Doesn't have to be her birthday, doesn't have to be Christmas. There's no special reason. She can have everything she wants. So if you're out there and you're a woman or a guy, the woman is the productive part of the relationship. If you're a guy or a gal and your spouse is the productive one, they're providing for the family primarily, and they want sex, give them sex. It's not that hard. I was going to get into it in the first hour, and I didn't get to the story. I had a woman come to my seminar, and first thing she did was she stood up and she said, first of all, Marshall, I want to tell you, you might be the most amazing man I've ever seen in my entire life. And she was standing and seated right beside a guy that I thought they were together. I said, are you two together? She said, we are. I said, is that your boyfriend, your friend, your husband? She said, it's my husband. She put her hand on his back. I said, okay, so that's your husband. I want to point something out to you before we go any further. You just told me in front of 1,000 people that I was the most amazing man you've ever seen, and your husband is seated right beside you. How do you think that makes him feel? Oh, he knows I didn't mean it that way. I said, no, he doesn't. Nobody does, actually. That's what you said, so I'm assuming you're honest. I'm assuming that's what you meant. Oh, I didn't mean about everything. I just meant about the seminar stuff. I said, then you should say it that way. Because the way you just said it, if I was your husband, I'd be looking up at you and saying, why did you throw me under the bus in front of 1,000 people? Okay, well, apologize. I'm sorry. And she says, well, here's my challenge. I love my husband very much, but he wants sex every single day. And that's just too much. I said, I understand. I said, does your husband work? She said, yes. I said, what does he do for a living? She said, he's a construction worker. I said, okay. So he works hard? She said, yes. I said, when he comes home from working hard all day, if he were to sit down and say, oh my gosh, I've been working hard at my construction job, my shoulders and my neck, they're tense and they're tight. Could you massage me for 15 minutes? Would you massage your husband's neck and shoulders? She said, of course, I love him. I said, what if he came home every day for a week, 5 full days, and said, my neck is sore, my shoulders are sore. Can you massage my neck? Would you massage his neck for 15 minutes? She said, of course, I love my husband. I said, lady, it's just a muscle. And I promise you, it won't even take 15 minutes. I promise you. So just massage it already. Your relationship will be better. That's it. And so I don't think most people realize it's not hard to have a good relationship. It's different. You're a single guy. What do you look for in a woman?
Well, at first, as a guy, attraction, physical attraction, and I would say that has not been the most productive path. When I was listening to talk about kindness being the first thing you looked for, I have dated, tall women, skinny women, all different shapes and sizes, but I do have a preference. There's a few styles that I really like on the outside. But what wasn't on my list was what's on the inside. So thank you for making that really prominent today. What a huge point I think it is. And in my mind, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, what we are selecting is really important. And I have been not doing the best job selecting. And so I think I've wasted some time, Marshall.
Well, and you want to let go of that because it doesn't matter whether you've wasted time or not. I often, I met Erica when I was 44, and I've often said, gosh, I wish I had met her 10 years earlier. But the challenge is if I had met her 10 years earlier, I'd be in jail because she would have been 10 years old. So everything happens when it's supposed to. I would not have been ready for Erica 10 years prior, even if she had been of age. And I know that finding my life less than perfect is a waste of my time. It is what it is. So you, what level are you at? What age are you?
I'm 60.
So at 60 years old, one of the things that I am positive about is I'm not interested in the club scene. I'm not interested in going to places where people hang out. But I wanted to address something else you said. Yes, we as men are primarily attracted to the physical presence of a woman before anything else. It's what makes us look. If someone is 300 pounds overweight and doesn't take care of their skin or doesn't dress well or is a slob when they eat, yeah, they're not going to be attractive to most people. Some people will find that attractive, but most people would not. So if I'm a woman and I want to up my odds of attracting someone that I would be attracted to, then I should take a look at my appearance. I should take a look at how I carry myself. That said, my ex-wife was a model and an actress, and all she had was the outside. She literally had nothing of quality on the inside. The outside was quite attractive. Other people thought it was quite attractive, which is why I was attracted to her, because other people complimented me on how beautiful my wife was, not realizing that as soon as we went home, it was 8 hours of fighting and screaming and nastiness that never made up for the beauty. But I will say that there's the equivalent in women. Women often like what they call the bad boy. Why do they like the bad boy? They like the bad boy because the bad boy makes them feel alive. They're not bad. They never have that drama. Human beings are motion junkies. They want some excitement in their life, so they want the bad boy even at the cost. Well, the guy that wants the attractive woman even at the cost of her being a constant bitch versus the woman that wants a bad boy at the cost of never having him there because he's a bad boy. He's out messing around with other women. He's out doing bad boy things. There's a point in our lives where we become mature and developed enough as human beings where what we say, once again, is I want harmony. But we also don't dismiss all of our other desires. When I met Erica, I told her I am a highly sexed human being. Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, when he talked about sexual transmutation, talked about the idea that all the successful men that he researched, the Edisons and the Fords, all of them, the Carnegies, they were all highly sexed. And I'm not suggesting people should, but he also discovered that many of these people, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Dale Carnegie, or as you would call him, Carnegie, all of these people, they had mistresses. They had other lovers, and their wives were okay with it in those times. They just said, look, he's my husband. What he does on his own time, I don't care about. It was a different time. Now, I don't have a mistress. I don't have other lovers. Why? Because my wife keeps me fulfilled. She stops me from looking anywhere else by looking amazing all the time, hotter than she looks when I met her 24 plus years ago. How many years now? 20 years ago. Met her 20 years ago. She's hotter than she was then. She's more fun and more amazing than she was when I met her because she's more comfortable in her own skin. So when people are single, I tell them, become what you want to attract. Become the person you're seeking. Because what's going to happen is you're going to be on a path, right? And as you're on that path, there's going to be somebody else on a path. You're going to look over, and they're on the exact same path that you are. You look away, you do your thing, you look around, then you look over, they're still on that path. Because they're suitable for you. You have harmony. You're on the same path. You want the same things. And so for me, I'd never dated a Filipino woman in my life. I'd never had a long-term relationship with anybody that wasn't blonde hair, blue eyes, and very large blue eyes before my wife, because that was my criteria for selecting somebody. When I decided, no, I want someone kind. That's what I want. I want no drama. The best sex in the world doesn't make up for somebody that makes your life miserable, ever.
Great point, Marshall.
Well, I appreciate you calling in so much, Michael. You call in anytime you like, and as always, you get $100 just for calling in and asking a cool question. You have an awesome day.
So much, Marshall.
God bless. Take care. Hey, I'm Marshall Silver. You are totally loved. It has been awesome being on the air with you today. Tomorrow, we got a great show for you. We're about to wrap up a little early today. Tomorrow, we got a great show for you. Digital or hard currency, cash or crypto. What do you want? And my expert, Merlin, is going to be with us tomorrow to talk about all things investing, bulls or bears. If you want to learn how to make more money and you've enjoyed this program today, Be sure to tune in tomorrow for our live guest, Merlin, to talk about cash, where the opportunities are in 2026, and how your life can be better. I'm Marshall Silver, your personal millionaire maker. You are totally loved, and I'll see you tomorrow for all your tips on making money in 26.